Welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something absolutely crucial for any successful workplace, and that is motivation. Now, we hear this buzzword all the time, right? But how often do we actually break it down? In this session, we're going to demystify it. We're moving away from high-level psychological theory and getting directly into actionable, ground-level management techniques. So whether you're leading a massive team or you're just trying to figure out organizational dynamics, this one is definitely for you.
Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. First, what are motivators? 2. The smart manager's role. 3. Maslow's hierarchy at work. 4. Motivation and techno-service. And finally, 5. The power of showing up.
All right, section 1, what are motivators? Defining the basics. Before we get into the weeds of implementing strategies, we really got to define what actually drives performance.
At a baseline, motivators are simply the rewards and incentives that literally induce a person to perform. It's like, we all have these underlying wants, right? But a motivator, that is the specific catalyst that sharpens that internal drive and turns it into actual, measurable, external action.
Moving right along to section 2, the smart manager's role. Now that we know exactly what these motivators are, let's talk about the person actually wielding them.
So, here's the deal. A smart manager doesn't just cross their fingers and passively hope their team gets inspired. No way. They actively use these specific motivators to lead their people to perform effectively for the whole organization. It's a highly deliberate, strategic pairing of the exact right reward with the exact right human drive.
Which brings us to section 3, Maslow's hierarchy at work, translating basic needs. Let's look at how we translate raw human needs into practical, everyday workplace equivalents.
We're all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, for sure. But think about it in a management context. Those basic physical needs, things like food and shelter, that translates directly to paying a minimum living wage. Then, once that baseline is completely covered, we hit safety needs. In the workplace, survival means holding onto your job, so job security. And here's the really fascinating part. Organizational quality plays a massive role here. Delivering quality products satisfies the customers, which in turn secures our own jobs. It's a whole cycle.
Okay, moving on up that pyramid, we hit social needs. We all want to feel accepted by the group, right? Well, a smart manager taps into this by basically challenging employees to not let their work groups down. And finally, at the very top, we reach ego needs. How do we fulfill this? By appealing to an employee's pride. We're talking tangible awards, real recognition, and true job enrichment, giving them that autonomy and meaningful work so they feel genuinely respected.
Now, section 4, motivation in techno-service. Context matters. Theory is great and all, but context is everything. So let's apply this to a very specific, modern environment. In these technical and service-oriented spaces, you've got employees dealing with super complex systems and direct customer interaction on a daily basis. So motivation here isn't just about throwing a yearly bonus at them. It requires active, everyday practices. You have to show genuine respect, express actual appreciation, foster deep involvement, and ensure job security. In a fast-paced techno-service world, these absolutely aren't just extra perks. They are literally the fundamental fuel for sustained performance.
And that means motivation in this space is fundamentally an active partnership. It's definitely not just some static HR policy sitting in a dusty manual somewhere. It's about a manager actively reaching their hand out and pulling their team up those steps to success, elevating your people through that consistent respect, appreciation, and involvement we just talked about.
All right, let's wrap this up with section 5, the power of showing up, fulfilling those higher-tier ego needs.
To really understand how fulfilling those higher-tier ego and social needs works in the trenches, I want to share this incredible anecdote. An Air Force general was talking about the immense value of personal visits. He made it a point to say that during his unit tours, he deliberately, intentionally always stops by the battery shop.
Now, he playfully admitted he does this for 2 reasons. The first, a little bit of lighthearted chaos. You know, he just loves watching the lower ranks scramble to try and find the commanding colonel because a literal general has suddenly just walked into a mundane, everyday operational shop. But beyond that momentary joke, the real payoff, his second reason, is actually incredibly profound. He noted that the look on the young airman's face is always just pure delight. Think about that for a second. Top brass drops in, and instead of sheer terror, it causes delight. Why on earth is that?
Well, the general explained it perfectly. He said those young airmen have a really dirty, dangerous job. By simply showing up, his visit lets them know that he genuinely cares.
Just by being there to acknowledge a gritty, tough task, he completely bridges the gap between basic respect and deep job satisfaction. He's not handing out a cash bonus in that moment, he is directly fulfilling their higher-tier ego needs through pure, unadulterated recognition.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a reflection on your own leadership or just your overall understanding of how organizations run. We've seen how motivators are specific incentives, right? And how smart managers use them to map directly to fundamental human needs, whether that's a minimum wage for physical needs or a personal visit for ego needs and job enrichment. So ask yourself right now, are you just checking off tasks on a to-do list, or are you actively fulfilling the needs that actually drive your team's success? Just remember that general in the battery shop. Sometimes the absolute most powerful motivator is simply proving that you actually care. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I highly encourage you to try looking at your own work environment through this exact lens today.